Good afternoon and welcome to Covfeed with me, Pay Aniboken.
And me, Francesca Fajardo.
Today on Covfeed, we'll be hearing all the most important and interesting news from our reporters on the ground.
We'll have stories on environmental technological breakthroughs,
the impact of inflation and rising living costs are having on the university sector, from recruitment to student experience,
and the latest on the US presidential election.
Today, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson announced an increase in tuition fees from $9,250 a year to an estimated $12,000 to $13,000 a year to combat underfunding universities across the UK. Universities across the UK are feeling the pinch, and Coventry University is no exception. Rising inflation and capped tuition fees are forcing free financial choices, but Coventry is tackling these challenges heads-on, focusing on international recruitment, revenue diversification and sustainable growth. Our financial correspondent, Katie Light, takes a closer look.
Universities across the UK have been grappling with financial pressures for nearly a decade now. With their core product, bachelor degrees, remaining at the same price for so long, it's no wonder that places like Coventry University are trying their best to be proactive with their spending, making careful decisions on everything from online degrees to building management. Coventry University Executive Director Keith Perry spoke to me about what Coventry is doing to help the local economy and how they are providing for students in the future.
Like most of the sector, we are not exactly flush with money at the moment. So I think it's fair to say that we've always had an eye on delivering value for money. So that's really important. So even without the financial constraints that the sector faces now, it's always been very important that we deliver value for money, and we've got to keep trying to do that. I suppose there's more of an imperative now to deliver value for money because there's less money in the system.
But it's not just about getting students here. Coventry has developed the Collaborative Online International Learning Programme, or COIL. This initiative connects Coventry students with their peers worldwide, fostering international collaboration and cultural exchange. Not only does it enrich the learning experience, but it also strengthens Coventry's global network, vital in a shifting international recruitment landscape. Domestically, however, the financial challenges are mounting. With UK tuition fees capped at £9,250 for over a decade, Coventry, like many universities, faces a growing funding gap. Rising costs and inflation have added to the strain, which pushed Coventry to explore new revenue sources. Partnerships, apprenticeships and digital learning are now cornerstones of the university's strategy to diversify income.
So even without the factors of the freeze in tuition fees, and the tuition fee is now worth, in real terms, less than £6,000 to universities. And any sector that can't put up the price of its core product for a decade is going to have issues financially.
On the infrastructure front, Coventry has made energy-efficient upgrades to some of its older buildings to reduce maintenance costs. However, a substantial portion of the budget is still allocated to maintaining facilities while investing in new construction. Balancing these costs will be critical as Coventry adapts its estate to be more financially and environmentally sustainable. But the challenges don't end there. The recent UK winter budget has delivered some unexpected cuts in higher education funding, hitting Coventry's operational and capital budgets. The university is bracing for these cuts by tightening spending, freezing new hires, and considering property sales as part of its broader strategy to stay financially viable, although it's nowhere near economic collapse anytime soon. Despite the economic headwinds, Coventry University is navigating its way forward, driven by a commitment to educational access, global partnerships and sustainability. As the sector adapts to new financial realities, Coventry's initiatives reflect a broader effort across UK universities to secure a stable future.
We think there's lots of things that we can do to help people. So it's being alive to the opportunities, but also suggesting some changes. So, for us to work more closely with FE, there's some changes that we might need to happen. I think we're at the leading edge of that in terms of suggesting to government do you know, we could do things better if you allow us to do this, and people will benefit. So it's about pushing the boundaries, and we've always had a track record of disruption at Coventry, and we're going to continue to disrupt and continue to challenge the status quo. It's what we do.
Katie Light for Covfeed News.
Now, the US presidential elections are set to take place tomorrow. But what impact will this have on those of us at home in the UK? Do people care? Do people know? Our correspondent, Corey Wilkinson, has been out and about to see how this historic election could impact the people of Coventry.
Final voting of the US election is taking place tomorrow, with Trump and Harris campaigns converge on the Dust Belt, with all efforts focused
on the important swing states of Pennsylvania and Michigan. But for us in the UK, this election, and all politics across the pond, can be harder to make sense of. So let's take a look into what's actually going on. The way the electoral system is set up in the US means a few tightly contested states, such as Michigan and Pennsylvania, will more than likely decide the election for Trump and Harris. They've been campaigning relentlessly in these battleground states since their presidential campaigns were announced. These so-called swing states are notorious election deciders, with the margins often too close to predict a winner. The election shows a dramatic division in the views of Americans. Harris and the Democrats campaign on a platform of women's rights and funding education, whereas the Republicans under Donald Trump have become increasingly focused on topics of immigration control and restriction of access to abortion. But what does the UK know about what's going on? We asked the people of Coventry what they know and who they would vote for.
How only we know the election is in the US?
Not
a lot
at all. Yeah.
I know some of Donald Trump's policies, and some of those things.
Whatever the memes get put on.
Yeah, pretty
online,
much.
Pretty much.
Donald? Maybe Donald, because he has more influence in the political, and also he has more experience through the political influences. So we thought that he will be the next leader in US.
I think it's ridiculous that Trump is even allowed to run. That's a convicted felon. He's just walking around like, oh, like, you know. I just think, I don't know, like, it just feels like a social experiment to me. I think America, objectively, is entertaining for me to watch, like, wow, look what they're up to. But actually, if he actually becomes president, I'm going to be praying for them. Like,
Well, Harris.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like she's the best option, but she's better than Trump.
It's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay informed with the current state of politics, especially when it concerns countries that aren't our own. We spoke to international relations expert Robert Smith to find out what we might not understand about this election.
I think just the level of polarisation that there is now in American politics. In Britain, we're lucky because we have the BBC, so we have a national broadcaster. And although there's PBS in the US, it's kind of tiny in comparison. So essentially you have media coverage that's siloed into conservative and democratic opinions, and there's not a national broadcaster that cuts across both. So the debate has become incredibly polarised. And then you add in, and that was true before Trump came along, but what Trump has done, he's kind of turbocharged that by throwing in conspiracy theories and fake news and stuff like that to shape the debate. So it's a debate where there can't even be an agreement about facts.
More than 70 million votes have already been cast by post before the polls open early tomorrow morning.
West Midlands Police have finally released the CCTV footage of an armed robber in Coventry. The man wore a mask over his face and a grey hoodie during 2 attempts of robbery of a shop and a petrol station. Anyone with information can contact the authorities on the West Midlands Police website.
A British couple have been found dead in their car a few days after severe flooding struck Spain. Mr. and Mrs. Turner were retired and in their 70s and had moved to Spain around 10 years ago. However, they had been said to be missing since Thursday morning. Mrs. Turner's sister explained in an interview that she was extremely angry at the Spanish authorities and the local government.
The largest German Christmas market outside of Germany has recently returned to Birmingham. However, visitors will have to pay more than certain for festive snacks or 4 pints of beers. Some increases as high as 50p, but classic hot chocolates and sweet treats have stayed the same, with some items being as cheap as £1.50.
In the run-up to bonfire night, Coventry Police have posted on their Facebook that they have been talking to firework retailers about the laws and selling restrictions. They have put reminders out about how it is illegal to sell fireworks to anyone under the age of 18 or set off any fireworks in public spaces. Now we're bringing you the latest on the environment and the impact of harmful chemicals and their effects on the Amazon. Our reporter, Siddharth Lamai, has been investigating the innovative work being done here in Coventry to identify the effects of climate change.
The Amazon rainforest is home to over 3 million animals and around 40,000 plant species, making it one of the biggest natural ecosystems in the world. But the vegetation and wildlife of the largest rainforest in the world might be in grave danger. Latest research by professors at Coventry University have shown the occurrence of PFAS, or forever chemicals, for the first time ever in the heart of the jungle.
Well, this research we've done, it was done at the Amazon Tall Tower Observatory. It's based in the middle of the jungles. We didn't specifically wanted to look at PFAS in Amazon rainforest. And as most of the scientific discoveries happen, it was done by an accident. So I was asked, okay, do you want to look at our samples? Can we actually see anything in them? Well, I said, yeah, I would like to look at the new and emerging pollutants, but I didn't want to look at PFAS. And I was surprised to see PFAS there. I was shocked to see a few PFAS there, but then only one of them, which is restricted, was above the detection limit. The main sources of PFAS is generally active foaming films, so which are used for firefighting. And my initial thought that maybe airplanes which are putting fires down, maybe they've used this foam with illegal composition. Giving this caveat that I'm not a biologist, and endocrine disruption means that biological organisms, they can confuse these chemicals with actual hormones and get confused. So it can also have some repercussions on the reproductive system, okay? And if it's an environment but then we know that PFAS are forever chemicals, so they get undistracted. They stay in the environment for hundreds of years. And we know that the endocrine disruptors, well, it's a unique environment. You know, there are lots of species, unique species, which you can only find there. But then I can only suggest that it could have some negative effects.
So how can we help prevent such catastrophic changes to our environment? One company is working towards their goal of zero-emission flying by reducing the amount of carbon dioxide and other chemicals in the air produced by airplanes. Zero Avia, in partnership with Coventry University, is creating a hydrogen fuel cell for a completely carbon-neutral future for aviation.
Coventry's role within the project is to help Zero Avia to develop the next generation of fuel cell technology, which will go to power these aircraft. We're essentially helping them to prove out this technology, trying to make it more powerful, more lightweight, and prove out its durability as well, so that they can be confident it's going to last tens of thousands of hours in an aircraft application. Well, so Zero Avia have already demonstrated a fuel cell passenger aircraft, so they have a 12-seater, I think it is, that they fly quite regularly out of Kemble, Cotswold Airport in the UK. That's using a low-temperature PEM fuel cell technology at the moment. So it's not particularly well suited to scale up to larger aircraft, and that's where their new high temperature technology comes in. And they're aiming to have that ready and in the air so in the mid-2030s sort of time frame.
With the recent startling discovery in the Amazon jungle, Zero Avia is just one of the many companies striving for a carbon-neutral future in aviation and a more sustainable world overall.
Now, Coventry City has won 3-0 against Middlesbrough in an exciting away match on Saturday, after their close win against Luton last week. This hopefully marks the end of their mixed start to their championship season.
More good news from Coventry Rugby, as the team's Premier Rugby Cup began with a 6-try win against Nottingham on Friday. The team won 35-15, but the game was somewhat messy, with a red card against Nottingham's Aman Jahal and several injuries on Coventry's end. A win's a win though, and let's hope the group stages continue as smoothly for Coventry.
And in a continuing run of form for local teams, the hockey team's Coventry Blaze secured 2 wins over the weekend in a 4-3 game against Dundee and a 3-1 against Glasgow. The Dundee game in particular was tense, forced into overtime, and with Coventry finally squeezed out a hard point.
So plenty of strong performances from Coventry teams this weekend. Tune into Covfeed News to follow up, and let's see if they can continue this run of form.
Now here's Maya with the weather forecast.
Today's another mainly cloudy day, but there's a possibility of skies brightening up across Coventry and Warwickshire this week, especially during the afternoon times. Temperatures are close for average early November. We're predicting a maximum temperature of 11 degrees for the rest of the month. Largely dry and often cloudy, although some brighter or sunnier spells are possible. Back to you, Pay and Frankie.
That's it for today. We've been your hosts, Pay and Woken.
And Francesca Fajardo.
Follow us on our Covfeed, TikTok, Instagram and Twitter for more updates.